Is second of my exam walkthroughs of this current year. We're looking at November 2018, paper 3, again in the foundation series. I set this to my students as an optional Christmas homework, and a number of them had a go at it. And I'm going to talk you through how we do each one of those questions. And you don't have to do it, don't have to watch this, but if you want to gain additional practice in working with exams and be able to do those that exam practice, then well worth taking a look through this. And I will reopen it, so if you want to try some of those questions again, then it'll make it a lot easier. Now you could just go along just copying my answers, but what would be the point of that? There's no learning from copying. So by all means, watch the video and then try yourself, having got those hints and tips. So here again is the November 2018 3F instructions. You will see this is a calculator paper, so please, you are welcome to use your calculator. Don't try doing those in your head, and it's out of 80 marks. So if you haven't yet done this and you want to have a go, feel free. Otherwise, do look through the video and then see if you can improve your mark. Question 1. We want to use to make his calculations correct. It's a calculator question, so use your calculator to do that. 100 minus 52.7. 1 minus 2/9. Don't try and do it in your head and risk getting it wrong. There they are, and submit answer, and we have started. Question 2. Write 7% as a fraction. It's recognizing that it is 7 out of 100. That's what percent means. Simple as that, straightforward mark. And we're moving forward. Question 3. Find the square root of 1.69. So I put it into my calculator, and it should tell me that it is 1.3. That 1.3 times 1.3 would give me 1.69. It's testing, can this person use a calculator? 1/8 of 760. Well, again, in your calculator, just do that. You do 1/8 using your brackets times 760. So fraction bar, 1/8 times 760, and my answer is 95. There we go. We're picking up the marks very quickly as we go through. Question 5. What type of 3D shape is that? Well, it's not a rectangle because it's a 3D shape. Looks a bit like a cube, but actually it's going to be a cuboid because the sides are not all the same length. So it's like a rectangle in 3D. Write down the number of vertices. That's the number of corners. Well, I count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And move through. Question 6. We throw an ordinary die once. What's the probability that it lands on an even number? So it could be a 1, a 2, a 3, a 4, a 5, or a 6. Then how do I do those questions? So what I'm doing here is I'm listing my possible outcomes, and I want to know how many of these are even. Well, there's an even, there's an even, and there's an even. So my probability is 3 ways out of 6, which I'll probably just simplify to 1/2. And then probability that answers a number less than 3. Well, 3 isn't less than 3, but 2 and 1 are. So that's going to be 2 out of 6, which I will simplify to 1/3. Let's stick that into MathsWatch. Notice here, I'm going to write it in as 1/2. And here, I'm going to use this button here to give me access to the fractions. I can write it as 2/6 and write it as 1/3. Let's write it as 1/3, see if it likes that, and super duper. 2/6 would also be acceptable. MathsWatch is a bit more generous. Okay, Terry is 1.78 meters tall. Stephen is 9 centimeters taller than Terry. How tall is Stephen? Well, I do my conversion. Terry is 178 centimeters. Stephen is taller than him. So am I adding or subtracting? Well, I'm going to be adding. So I'm going to have 178 centimeters plus 9 centimeters. Stick in my calculator. And now, obviously, we could write it in theory as 187 centimeters, but I suspect MathsWatch here wants to have it in meters. So hit that and go. We're a grade 1, but grade 1 isn't very high. We can aim a lot higher than that. Question 8. 2 pens cost £2.46. 7 folders cost £5.70. He buys 20 pens and 20 folders. How much change does he get? Well, let's have a look at it. Pens. How am I going to do this? I want to get 20 pens. Well, 20 pens is 10 lots of 2. So that's going to be 10 lots of £2.46. And if I work that out, that's going to be £24.60. So I'm making sense of that. Folders. Well, I want to get, again, 20 folders. 5 folders cost that. So 4 lots of 5 is 20. So that's 4 lots of £5.70. And that's going to give me 4 lots of £5.70. Well, stick in my calculator. 4 times 5.7. And that gives me £22.80. So stick it in. Oops. £22.80. So then my total I need to work out is going to be £24.60 plus £22.80. Stick that into my calculator because it's a calculator paper. That gives me £47.40. £47.40. So what's my change? It's going to be £50. Take away £47.40. And notice here that I'm very deliberately showing my working out. So I want to get those working out marks. So here we go. And that's going to be £2.60 if I haven't made a mistake. I haven't. So there we go. Question 9. Right, we want to look at these shapes here. And to shape Z, what is that? Well, I notice that there are 2 lines that are parallel, 2 sides parallel, the others aren't. So that tells me that's going to be a trapezium. Now, sometimes you see that called a trapezoid in American websites, but we call it a trapezium. And then we're testing what's meant by the word congruent. So congruent means 2 shapes that are exactly the same size. They might have been rotated, they might have been reflected, but I could take one, drop it on top of the other, and it will fit exactly. So I look at that and I say, which 2 look exactly the same? Well, I think that X and Y look the same. We've got going up 3, along 3. So I'm going to write down X and Y. I don't know if it wants a comma or not. It seems happy with my comma. So super. Question 10. And here I want to reflect this in the mirror line. One of the easiest ways to do transformations is to use tracing paper. And you may have noticed that MathsWatch has had an upgrade recently. Some of the tools have changed, and we now have tracing paper available to us. So I'm going to line up my tracing paper so that this is right along the mirror line. Now, you can be careful doing that because I want it to flip over along this, so I'm using this control. I'm going to mark with an X the 3 points of my triangle. There's 1, there is 2, and then here is 3. What I'm going to do then is I'm going to flip over my tracing paper. I'm going to click this button here, and you will see that my marks now move because I flipped them over like we would do in class. So all I need to do now is I'm just going to remove my tracing paper. I'm going to draw underneath it with my ruler, and we're going to reflect this shape. So lining it up nice and neatly, and that can be a bit tricky sometimes with MathsWatch. But let's have a go at this. Make it a little bit smaller perhaps, make it a bit easier. And lining it up there. Looks good. I might just have missed that one. I might just undo that one and try that again. Because I think I have just gone, I didn't quite line that one up right. Let's just take that a little bit higher. Yep, that looks better like that. Oops. So grab this, drag it down there, and then I'm going to do the same thing with this one. And just take it through there. Oops, I'm not very good, am I? Take it just through there. And let's get rid of my ruler and then see how we did. So ruler's gone. And if I hit submit, let's see if it likes it or not. And there we go. So a little bit tricky there, but it's really good practice. Question 11, men and women at a meeting. 42 women, 40% of the people are men. Work out the number of people at the meeting. We can do it in different ways. To be honest, I would use a bar model with that because to me, bar models make a lot of sense. So here's my bar model. I've done it in tens because I recognize that there's going to be, we're doing percentages, 40%. So 40% is going to be 4 sections is men. And then 60% is going to be women because presumably it's either men or women. And I'm told that that is 42 women. So I'd say to myself, okay, so we have 6 blocks for women. It's 42. 42 divided by 6, 1 block must be 7. So I'm going to stick in 7 in each of those. And 7 likewise for the number of men. And then the total number of people will be 10 lots of 7, which would be 70. And then I'll write it up in MathsWatch. So there I've written out in words what we did. 40% men, 60% women, 10% is 7 people, 70 people, and there we go. On to question 12. We're still only on grade 1. There's an awful lot to get through here. We have a pie chart, and we're told there are 60 people. So what am I going to do? I want to work out how many degrees do I need for one person, or for one type of fruit, or yeah, one person giving their fruit. So I would do 360 divided by 60 people tells me that 360 divided by 60 is 6 degrees. So any one fruit is 6 degrees. So hence for apples, that's 25 people said that. It's 25 lots of 6, and that becomes 150. For pears, 15 people went for that. So 15 times 6 gives me 90. And then for 20 times 6 gives me 120. Now, you might think, well, okay, I'm done there. But actually, it's always a really good thing just to check my degrees, add them up, 150 plus 90 plus 120, and to be able to say, yes, that adds up to 360. So far, so good. But now I'm asked to draw the accurate pie chart. Well, my banana is already there. That should be 120 degrees. Why don't you just check that? Here's my protractor. And you'll notice that the protractor has now changed. It's really good. It's like a protractor we're used to seeing. So I'm just going to shift this around and check, is that giving me 120 degrees? I think it probably is, but Let's make it a little bit bigger so we can see. And yes, that is approximately, oh, I'm not, yeah. Should be 120 degrees. There we go, lined up exactly. Brilliant. So now I want to add for pears, for apples even, 150. So I'm going to go back to rotate round to the starting point. So there's my 0 point just there. Let's line it up nice and neatly. Oops. Here's my 0 point. Not quite lined up. And there it is. And now I want to find 120, well, sorry, I beg your pardon. Yeah, apples, 150. So here's my line. I'm counting off from 0 down here, looking for 150, and it's just going to be there. So let's grab my ruler and let's see if we can't draw that line. So we're starting here, right in the corner. We're going to twist it round. We're going to line up just along there, and we're going to draw 150 degrees. So get rid of my ruler, and let's just check that that works. If I take that, that should give me 90 degrees. For my pears, it looks right. Let's take it down and just double check. There's my 0, and there is my 90. So I think that yes, we have got that correct. So go to my protractor, and hopefully this will give me my marks. And notice we're up to grade 2. So far, so good. But we've got an awful lot more questions to go through, because the foundation really tests many aspects of your mathematical understanding. Question 13. So this is a word problem. I need to work out the cost of the books. This is 45 lots of £1.40. I worked out the cost of the bracelets, 32 lots of £1.50. Add those together, and I get that that equals £111. Well, I'm told that my total is 179.4, so I want to find out the difference. What's the difference between what the total is, which is 179.4, and what I got my books and bracelets to come to, which is 111.00. Stick that into your calculator. 179.4. I work that out at £68.40. So that must be, therefore, my badges. So my badges, oops, must be 68.40. That's the cost of them. But I'm told they cost 90p each. So if I divide by 90 pence, which again is 0.90, because we're working in pounds here and not pence, that should tell me how many badges I get. So if I divide by 0.9, that should give me 76 badges, because 76 lots of 0.90 would give me £68.40. Let's see if we got it right or not. Looks good. On to question 14. So we have a probability question, and we want to work out, first of all, the probability it will land on 2. Well, we know that with any probability, the probability of that it will never happen is 0. The probability that it certainly will happen is 1. And therefore, all probabilities have to add up to 1, because if I roll a die and it's going to be a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6, might not all be equal, depending on the die, but it will definitely give me a number. So it'll be 1 as the total. So to find question 2, or the probability of number 2, I need to add 0.1 and 0.2 and 0.4, and I see that that adds to 0.7. So what do I need to number 2 to be to increase that from 0.7 up to 1? Well, the answer will be 0.3, because if I add those up and take it away from 1, I get 0.3. So therefore, which number is it least likely to land on? Well, which is the the number which is the lowest, well, it's going to be 1, because 1 has the lowest probability. And then he spins it 80 times. The number of times it'll land on a 3. Well, my calculation is for every 1 time, it's got a 0.2 chance. So if I do it twice, it's got 0.4 chances. If I do it 3 times, it's 0.6. If I do it 80 times, let's put in my calculator, 80 times 0.2, then it's got 16 chances of landing. So it's got, that's what we estimate it'll land on 3 16 times. Question 15. Jim has 100 cards, no cards of the same number. He puts these stars on them, he puts circles on them, which have both a circle and a star. Well, you can do this in 2 ways. You could work it out in terms of how many stars there are and label them also to, 3, 6, 9, 12, and so forth. You could do it that way, and you could do the 7s and say 7, 14, 21, 28, and do it that way and work out, and then after you've done all of your numbers, see which ones are in both lists. Okay, that's fine. But actually, this is a lowest common multiple because I want to know which numbers have a 3 in them and also a 7 in them. And I can say that my lowest common multiple will be 3 times 7, which would be 21. So the number 21 will be a multiple of 3 and a multiple of 7. But there are other cards as well. So there's 21. But what about 42? That's also going to be, it's a multiple of 21, so it's going to have 3's in it and 7's in it. What about 63? Can I go any higher? What about another lot of 21? What about 84? What's my next lot? Would be 5 lots of 21 would be 105. Well, that's no good because that's too big. So I reckon those 4 are going to be my answers. And look, we're up to grade 3. Grade 3 is good, but we really want to aim for grade 4, if not indeed beyond that. So I want to write down the ratio of 450 grams to 18 grams. How am I going to do that? Well, I could simplify that. What can I divide that by? I notice I've got a 9 in both of those. So I could do 450 divided by 9. That would give me 50. 18 divided by 9 would give me 2. But can I make that even smaller? I think I can. I can now divide both of those by 2 to give me 25 to 1. Now, you might notice actually I could have just simply divided both sides by 18 to begin with. 415 divided by 18 would have got me there in one step. But there we go. I've written it in its simplest form. Terrific. 17. And this is why in our maths lessons we start with these 10 questions or 20 questions, because those basic questions we practice at the beginning of each of our lessons, they are so critical to getting up to a grade 3, and then we build on top of those. And that's why, I don't want people to say, oh, well, I'll just, I'll do a couple of them. We should be aiming to do every single one of those starters, whether it's 10 questions or 20 questions, every one of them. So we know that every question up to this point in the exam paper, we are sure that we can get right. So this is a quite a tricky little question, and we're going to do this as a diagram. So we have our diagrams already been drawn for us, which does make things a lot easier. I'm told that there's a line of symmetry. Well, presumably the line of symmetry has to be along here. And therefore, if that is 2x plus 3, this line must also be 2x plus 3. And if that is x plus 1, this must also be x plus 1. So to find the perimeter, I'm going to start here and start adding up as I go along. So what have I got? I have got 4x plus 2x plus 3 plus x plus 1 plus another x plus 1 plus 2x plus 3, and I'm told that all of that equals 21. So how many x's do I have? I have got, let's have a look. I've got 4 x's, 2 x's, x, and 2 x's. So that's 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That's 10 lots of x. And then I've got, how many units have I got? I've got a 3 there. So there's my 3. And I've got a 1 and a 1 and a 3. And that gives me 8. So I'm going to do plus 8 equals 21. And that's going to be my equation. I'm going to stick into there. And then I want to solve that. So I'm going to solve this. And I'm going to work this one out. And I'm going to start by taking away 8 from both sides. So there's my take away 8. Take away 8. And that gives me, oops, beg your pardon. So I've just redone that diagram because my pen stopped working consistently. So I'm going to take out 8 from both sides, and that will give me 10x. The 8 drops out, and 21 take away 8. That's going to give me 13. And then I'm going to find one lot of x, I'm going to divide by 10. And that's going to give me that x is 1.3 divided by 10, which is 1.3. So I want to stick that into MathsWatch and just write it up a little bit more neatly. But notice there we have an answer you wouldn't be able to guess it very simply. So here I've typed into MathsWatch what we did by hand, and you end up with this line here, which is in the form ax plus b. And then we have solved to get 1.3 centimeters. On to question 18. We're looking at payments. Again, a very practical way of doing this question. So cost of the caravan is that plus VAT. I want to work out, first of all, how much does a caravan cost? So total cost of caravan. Now this is a calculator paper, so I can use the calculator. So I could work out 10% and then 20% and then add it to 15,600, or I can do the shortcut. I can say it's that times 1.20, because that would be 100% plus an extra 20%. If I put it into my calculator, 15600 times 1.2, that tells me the new cost, total cost after VAT, is £18720. Well, she pays a deposit. So after the deposit, my cost is going to be 18720 take away 5,000. That's already been paid. And that will give me 1,300, sorry, beg your pardon, £13,720 to pay. Caravans are obviously expensive things. And she's going to spread that over 10 installments. So one installment will be that amount, 13720, divided by 10. And if I stick that into, you see, even without my calculator, drop off a 0, that should be £1,372. If I hit the submit for that, there we go. And we're moving up towards a grade 4. We have an inequality, so we know it starts at -3. I'm told it's x. The question is, does that open circle mean greater than or equals or less than and stuff like that? So because it's open means we're not including the number 3. So 2.9 would be, or 2.9 would be fine, but 3 is not included. And I can see it's going less than 3. It's going down. So it's going to be x is less than 3. What about this one here? Well, we're testing. We've got 2 is less than y, less than or equal to 6. So what are my options as an integer? Testing whether I know the word integer means whole number. So 2 is not greater than 2 because 2 is equal to 2. So 2 isn't one of my answers. 3 is. 4 is. 5 is. What about 6? Is 6 less than or equal to 6? Well, it's equal to 6, so it counts. 7 isn't, because 7 is not less than 6. And then part 3 is a bit tricky, and I'll show you how to do this one. So I'm going to do this exactly the same way that I would do an equation. Let's go to that for a moment. So I'm going to write 3x plus 7 greater than x plus 19. We'll do this just to show my working out, because it's important to show you working out. I want to get x by itself, so there's an x over here. So let's just take away x from both sides, and that'll give me 2x plus 7 is greater than 19. So far, so good. Can we get rid of the 7? If we subtract 7 from both sides, that's going to be a good step. So 2x, take away the 7, 19, take away the 7 is 12. And then the last thing to do is to divide by 2. And I get x, divide 12 by 2 is greater than 6. So I'll stick that into MathsWatch and see if it likes that. So there I've typed it all out. And how do we do? Did very well. And now we're grade 4. So we needed to get 19 questions completely 100% right to even start to be hitting grade 4. And that's why these early questions we do in our starters are so crucially important. But it wouldn't be a shame if you got, say, question 15 wrong, but everything else 100% right, and then didn't quite get your grade 4. So it's important to aim higher and to get a very secure grade 4, if not indeed to aim for a grade 5. So question 20. I want to write this to 3 significant figures, 8, 2, 5, 6. Well, my 3 significant figures are 8, 2, and 5. And then I draw my rounding bar after the 5, and I notice that the 6 will round up the 5 to give me 8, 2, 6, and then beyond that just becomes a 0. And then this one, for my calculator, it's testing, can I use the fraction button? Can I use the square root button? So 19 plus 6 squared divided by 7.2 squared, and I get that to be 0.1430593844. Just check that one again, looks good. And notice you're not meant to round it. If you round that, you won't get the marks. It wants to see, can this student put it in accurately? Now, if your calculator has more figures, that doesn't matter, it's fine. Question 21. Last year, Boris paid £256 for his car insurance. This year, he has to pay this much more. Find a percentage increase. Well, first of all, what is my increase? My increase is 894, take away 256. And if I stick that again into my calculator, and I get 894, take away 256. It's so important to get those numbers right in your calculator. And I get that to be £638. That's the increase. But I want to work that out as a proportion of the total. So I would say the proportional increase, or the percentage increase is going to be that 636 divided by what it started with. So it started with 256. So work that out. 638 divided by 256, and that gives me a value of 2.4921875. Now, that's great, but actually it wants it as a percentage. So we know that the whole is 100%. So 2 wholes would be 200%, or 2.49. Well, that's going to be 249% and some bits, 0.21875%. Now, really reasonably, I don't want that probably that much of a percentage. Let's try 1 decimal place and see how it feels about that. 249.2%. That's a huge increase in his car insurance. And look how quickly we are on to grade 5. We were hardly on grade 4 for any time at all. And that's why I'm encouraging you so much to aim for the grade 5 questions rather than just saying, well, I'm happy with grade 4. You know, if you got there, you may as well go a little bit further and aim for your grade 5. So we have 5 questions left. And we have a table of values for x squared plus x minus 4. Now, how do we do this? Well, let's start. I always start this with the positives. So if x is 0, y would be 0 squared plus 0, take away 4. So 0 plus 0, take away 4 is negative 4. What about if x is 1? 1 plus 1, take away 4. So 2, take away 4, that's minus 2, or negative 2. Oops, in the wrong place, I beg your pardon. And what about here if x is 2? So again, I put it in my calculator. 2 squared plus 2, take away 4, that's going to give me 2. And what about here? 3 squared plus another 3, take away 4. That's going to be 9 plus 4 is 12. Take away 4 is 8. And then we go back and we start going backwards. Again, we're going to put it into our calculator. So I'm going to use my brackets for this. I'm going to do brackets, negative 1, close brackets. And then I'm going to square that. And then I'm going to do plus negative 1, close brackets. I'm going to do negative 4. And that gives me a negative 4. Do the same thing for negative 2. So brackets, negative 2, close brackets, squared, plus brackets, negative 2, brackets, negative 4. Take away 4, that gives me negative 2. And then finally, for negative 3, I'm going to do brackets, negative 3 squared. So that's negative 3 brackets all squared, plus, open brackets, negative 3, take away 4. And that gives me 2. Now, do you notice that there is some symmetry here? We've got negative 4, negative 4, negative 2, negative 2, 2 and 2. The fact it's symmetrical suggests to me that I've done my calculation correctly. And then I'm asked which of these curves is A, B, C, or D is that graph. Well, how do I do it? Basically, I ask myself, when x is 0, the y value is negative 4. So which of those goes through 0, negative 4? And it looks to me like it's going to be that one, part B. Let's just double check that one, shall we? So here's my graph, and I'm looking here, and that looks like that's going to be just negative 0, negative 4. Just follow that one along, and yes, it does look like B is indeed correct, so I'll stick in B there. And then I'm asked to work out, to estimate what's true to make that equal 0. Well, what we're saying is that's for y equals. So we're saying if y is 0, what's the value of x? So y is 0. So y is 0 is the x-axis. So here, if I'm using this graph, I'm interested in that point there. That's when the y value is 0. And I'm interested in that point there. So I reckon that's about 1.6 when x is 1.6. Or back there is about negative 2.6. And what I'm going to do, just to check that one, is I'm going to put it into my equation just to test it. If I had 1.6 squared plus 1.6 take away 4, what would I get? Let's have a look at that. So 1.6 squared plus 1.6 take away 4, and that gives me 0.16, which is really close to 0. So it's not quite 1.6, it's maybe a little bit more, but I think it's a good estimation. So I'll stick that into MathsWatch and see how we do. And there's a whole 5 marks to make our grade 5 very secure. Okay, we have here a graph, it's a frequency graph about numbers of books, and this is a little bit complicated. I'm going to talk through this in more detail. So the first part of the question is reasonably straightforward, because we are asked the percentage of students who bought 20 or more books. Well, that's this group here. These are the people who bought 20 or more books. How many are there? Well, there are 6 people. There are 6 students who bought 20 or more. So it's going to be 6. But 6 out of how many? There were 40 in total. So 6 over 40. Can I simplify that? That's going to be 3 over 20. And I want to make that as a percentage. So to make that over 100, I would multiply both sides by 5. And then that would give me 15 over 100, or 15%. That's the simpler one. The estimate's a little bit trickier. You see, look at this. There are 9 students who bought between 0 and 4 books. I don't know how many books they bought. They might have all bought 0 books, or they might have all bought 4 books. I don't know, but I'm going to guess that they bought 2 books, because that's like the middle. Between 0 and 4 is 2. I'm going to guess that this bunch bought 7 books each, that this bunch bought 12 books each, because it's halfway between 10 and 14, that these 2 people bought 17 books, and these people bought 22 books. It's an estimate. It's the word I'm looking for. It's an estimate. It's not an exact calculation. So therefore, how many books did this bunch buy? Well, if there's 9 people and they each bought 2, that's going to be 9 lots of 2. And over here, if there were 10 people and each bought 7 books, that's 10 lots of 7. Here, it's going to be 13 people and they each bought 12 books. That's an awful lot of books. Here, I have 2 people and they each bought 17 books, and then 6 people who each bought 22 books. Well, I need to add all of those up and work out how many books in total we think they bought. So 9 twos, 18. 10 times 7 is 70. 13 times 12 is a little bit tricky there. I think that's going to be, it's 144 plus another 12 is going to be 156. I seem to have lost my pen just a moment. 156. 2 times 7 is 34. And 6 lots of 22, that's going to be 132. So I'm going to add up the total number of books. Let me just do that a minute. So I work out that to be 410 books. Now I'm asked to find the average. So I'm saying, so what's my mean going to be, or the average? Well, my mean is going to be the total number of books, which is 410, divided by the number of students, and there's 40 students. So I'm going to do 410 divided by 40, and that gives me a value of 10.25 books per student. Now, if that seems a little bit complicated to you, it is quite a complicated question. Last year, during our first lockdown, I made a video on my Kane Maths website that looks at averages and frequency tables, and you might find it helpful to look through that. So there I have written it out and hit the answer. I have 3 questions left to complete. This is quite a tricky question because it's tempting to throw the numbers around and just come up with some numbers which you hope makes sense. 525 meters in 2 minutes 6 seconds, that is 126 seconds. And what my approach is going to be, how long will it take me to go 1 meter? So that would be 126 seconds divided by 525 meters. That's 1 meter. Now be careful with that. It's tempting to say, well, it'll be 525 divided by 126. But if you think about it, it has to be that way around. And 126 divided by 525, that is 0.24 seconds. So that's how long it takes him to go 1 meter. So then I want to know how long will it take him to complete an 800 meter. Well, for 800 meter race, that's going to be 800 lots of 1 meter. So it's going to be 800 times 0.24 seconds. And that's going to be 800 times 0.24. And that gives me 192 seconds. So far, so good. Except that it asks me to give my answer in minutes and seconds. So how many minutes is 192? Well, we know that 60 is 1 minute. 2 minutes is 120. 3 minutes is 180. So that's going to be, it's going to take 3 minutes and then take away 192, take away 180 and 12 seconds. And we'll look at that in just a moment. And then we're told his speed actually increases the further he goes. So he goes further and further and further. He actually gets faster. So does that mean that, how does this affect your answer to part A? Well, if you think about it, he's going faster and faster and faster, and then obviously it's going to be a faster time. It's going to be less than 3 minutes 12 seconds. So it's going to be a lower actual time, but it's faster. So therefore we're going to go for A and see how we do. Looking good. 2 questions left in this exam paper. So we have a question. I need a diagram here. So if in doubt, draw a diagram. And we are told that we have this right angle triangle and that the size of angle B to A is 3 to 2. So this is B and this is A. Now I notice that this is 90 degrees. So these two together must add up to 90 degrees. So I'm going to draw this. And I have 5 blocks, and that tells me that therefore my if I just click on here and make it a little bit smaller so I can fit in nicely, then that tells me that 90 divided by 5 is 18. So each of these will be 18. So therefore angle B will be 3 lots of 18, and that will be 54 degrees, and angle A will be 36 degrees. So now we want to find the length of AB. Now, I'm going to use my trigonometry, my SOHCAHTOA for this one. I need to start with an angle. I'll choose to start with this angle here. So I need to label them. Let me just change my color. And that's my opposite. That's my hypotenuse. And that is my adjacent. So which of these am I not using? Well, I want to find my hypotenuse. That's what I'm looking to find. It's AB. I know my opposite. I'm not using my adjacent, so I can get rid of that. So which of mine uses the opposite hypotenuse? SOHCAHTOA. It's going to be sine. So I'm going to use the sine and do my formula triangle for that. So there is sine of 54 degrees. My opposite is 16, and I want to find my hypotenuse. So I can say that my hypotenuse AB is going to be 16 divided by sine 54. That's quite a complicated question, but it's right at the end of your paper. 16 divided by sine 54, and I get that to be 19.77 centimeters. So I'll just write that in. That's 19.777. I want to do that to 3 significant figures. So there's 1, there's 2, there's 3. So it's going to become 19.8. 19.8 to 3 significant figures. Let's stick it in the MathsWatch. So here you can see I've just written out what we did using our bar model. And then there's our SOHCAHTOA. And I've gone for 19.8. And we have one last question to do. So, question 26. I want to find this arithmetic sequence. Well, we should know how to do that by now. Plenty of these in our starter questions. So I find what is the difference between them. So from 5 to 12 is plus 7. From 12 to 19, plus 7. That's plus 7. And because they're all the same, I can write that's going to be 7n. And then what about the starting point? If I go back 7, I end up with minus 2. So it looks like that's going to be 7n minus 2. Let's check it. What about my third term? If I did 7 times 3, take away 2, would I get 19? That's 21. Take away 2, and it does indeed give me 19. So 7n minus 2 looks like that is my last question. So I'll hit submit, and there we go. So we have completed all of the paper. And again, I'm asking you, not just to copy down my answers, because there wouldn't be much benefit in that, but having watched this video, why don't you go back now and try some more of those questions and see if you can improve your grade, because the more we are confident about doing these types of questions, then the more secure we will be in our ability to handle these exam papers. Thank you for making it through to the end.